Welcome to Rawsome Parents, the podcast where parenting gets real, raw, and awesome. Parenting is messy, magical, and transformational. So whether you're navigating new parenthood, single parenting, co-parenting, or rediscovering yourself after the kids have moved out, you are not alone. Here we share raw truths, heartfelt stories, and playful conversations with parents and experts, because suffering is optional, and together we can lead with love, heal what holds us back, and create lives full of fun and integrity for ourselves and our kids. So grab a coffee, hit subscribe, and join us on this wild ride. Let's get raw and awesome. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Rawsome Parents with me, Shaun Tucker, and I'm joined today by Jacintha Field. And Jacintha Field is a family and child counsellor and founder of Happy Soul Kids, a platform teaching emotional resilience, mindfulness, and growth mindset to children aged between 5 and 12 through gamified storytelling and real-life role models. The mission of Happy Soul Kids is to empower every child to become the hero of their own story, with a goal to help over 100,000 children learn self-regulation, manage their emotions, and cope with anxiety by 2027. What a powerful mission. Jacintha, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Shaun. Lovely
So good to have you here. And when I first heard from you, I was like, wow, that is a massive mission. And I'm so happy that people like you are out there committing yourself to a mission like this, because self-regulation, managing emotions, especially at that age between 5 and 12, there's so many transitions that sort of happen. And I just really applaud you on your courage to help that. So thank you so much. And thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. It's a big mission, but my son is my target market. So I see my son as all the beautiful other children in the world, and I knew I could be of service. So that's why I started this mission.
What was I'd love to go back and ask, what was the thing that inspired you to really, I guess maybe it was through your son or through your lens looking at your son, go through and handle difficult emotions, but what was that little moment where it was like, wow, I actually need to do something about this?
Yeah, of course. So I've been in the healing industry for about 20 years. 20 years ago, I went and saw a meditation teacher, and she just got me to draw. I wasn't able to express how I was feeling at the time, so I just drawed. I just used as much color as I possibly could, and that started my process of intuitively being able to talk to myself and just work out what emotions and feelings that I was feeling. And so that started my healing path. Now, we were all partying back then, so it wasn't like socially acceptable like it is these days for meditation. It was very a taboo subject, it was something that people just didn't talk about. And then I went on a healing journey. I studied integrative nutrition, and I learned a lot about nutrition and our bodies and our mind. And I then became a health coach, and that didn't really work out that well. And then in 2019, 2020, we separated. My son started school, and it was COVID all at the same time. And he was really not okay. He was throwing bins around the house, running up the street, and everything. His emotions were so well beyond anything I could support at the time. So I started studying to be able to support my own child. I learned about emotions, feelings, how I could support him, how the best way is to hold space for him. And this was all during COVID. It was such an emotional big time for all children around the world. And I saw that kids couldn't gain access to psychologists. There was a 6 to 12 month wait, and it just absolutely broke my heart. I knew that I could be of service with kids. Like, I've always been, kids and dogs are my thing. I love them so much. And I just knew with all the work I was doing with my own son, I could be of service to kids all around the world. So I started studying to become a family and child counsellor. I'm an art therapist. I've studied play therapy, and I'm a kids yoga teacher. And I did all this to support my own child. And so during COVID, I started a practice. And so I had a practice called Happy Souls Kids. We moved to Torquay, and I had a private practice for 4 years. So I learnt the pain points that children and parents were facing. And, there's just so much disconnection in the parent-child connection. And that was something that I was building with my own son. And I had a lot of learning to do myself. You know, I had a lot of my own habits and beliefs and patterns that I had to break during this. I had to learn to have compassion for myself rather than being so hard on myself all the time. You know, when you're in the kitchen and you pour the milk over and you get really angry at yourself, it's like, ah! Well, what we're doing in those moments is teaching our children. So in moments where they're dysregulated, you're like, well, hang on a second, let's go back to that moment that I had. I actually taught and I mirrored that behavior to my own child. So it's about really feeling in and working out what our patterns are, what we are mirroring to our children, what we need to break, how we show up for them differently. It's no longer eat concrete, harden up, you'll be right. It's very, you're feeling into how a child's feeling and allowing them space to feel however they're feeling, and whatever they're feeling is completely okay. But
Mm.
this is actually how we should be as well. We are so
Yeah.
like put our warrior stick and put on our mask and put on our shield, and we're like, we're so brave, we're so good, everything's wonderful. And what that does is it's really unauthentic. It's not an authentic place that we're living from. It's a really inauthentic place. So the best thing to do with our kids is to say, hey, how are you feeling today? And for us to actually say, you know what? I didn't actually feel that good today. I was a bit frustrated because something happened, and I was a bit sad because I didn't get this project, or, I've got some big stuff going on at the moment. And actually having those conversations with our kids so they can realize, oh, there's nothing wrong with me. Mum and dad feel this too. And so that's where we can really feel into our children and help them understand what we feel. And so it helps them to realize what they feel. So I was in practice with one of the kids one day and I said, hey, do you want to do some meditation? He just rolls his eyes at me like, whatever, lady. And I said, LeBron James meditates? And instantaneously he wanted to meditate straight away. So that was the birth of my practice being something so far beyond just a small practice in Torquay, to be able to take it global, to be able to use the influence of people that kids admire, to be able to tell real, raw, authentic stories. Because a kid will see somebody win a gold medal and be like, they're so talented. And you're like, yes, they are. They so are talented. But you haven't heard about the journey for them to get there. And so we tell those real, raw, authentic journeys and experiences so a kid can say, oh, I just had a bad game. There's nothing wrong with me. Or, if they have that lack of self-worth, it's like, oh, I get it. Archie Thompson does that same thing. Or Elise Villani, this is how she got through her big moments. So it's utilizing those really big moments of athletes and people of influence to kids to be able to relate to their own feelings. And the purpose of Happy Souls Kids isn't just to give a kid a phone. We don't want them to be on technology. We want them to be off technology. It's to learn the lessons within the app. And then so they can be in real life situations with their parent. They can learn with their parent. This is a parent-child connection app to do it together. So in real life situations, they can say, hey, remember that breathwork practice we learned, or remember that it's just a big moment, or just it's a moment in time, or, a mantra that they can potentially use during those situations as well. And so, yeah, that's the journey of Happy Souls Kids. It derived from a lot of pain, a lot of things that I saw with my child. Separation's tough. It's big.
Mm.
It's such a huge area where I don't think people really understand how challenging it can be for some kids if we don't have the right tools and experiences for them.
Yeah. Wow. I think the transitional periods that I remember going through as a kid, even going from like kinder to prep, was a big transition, right?
Yeah.
So I can't imagine what it would be like for a kid who doesn't really have the logical reasoning or understanding as to why mom and dad might be splitting up and
Yeah.
separating, right?
Yeah.
It's quite unfathomable for me. But I remember even going from grade 6 to high school, it's a whole different ball game and environment that you have to lean into and
Mm.
understand that we're a product of our environment.
Mm.
And if we don't have the tools or the resources or the nutrients around us to support us, well, we're going to default to what we do have within ourselves.
Of course.
And if we're unable to express and feel and let things happen,
Mm.
there's this element of we need to control it because
Mm.
we're afraid to actually feel it.
Mm.
And then this is where me personally, right? I'm 34, but I still have these conditionings from when I'm a young boy, right?
Of
And
course.
that's what I love so much about the work that you're doing, is it equips kids with the tools when they're young, when they're able to take these tools, make them very easy to integrate into their life, so that when they do feel a tough situation unfolding, they can tap in, they can connect, they can stop for a moment, and they can let whatever it is process and then move on to the next thing
Yeah.
without suppressing and then repressing, getting into, states of depression and things like that, because that's the reality that we have right now. It's
Yeah, and
quite
then they
scary.
mask it with different things. They mask their emotions. That's where drugs and alcohol and all of these things come into later in life, which is a part of their journey sometimes. But at the same point, we want to equip them with the tools to be able to release those big feelings first.
Yeah, exactly. So I really applaud you on that work, and love to any parent who's listening to this to really understand that it's coming from you as a parent, as a teacher, as a student, as a being, that the kid and the kids, the next generation of children that come through, they're looking for role models, they're looking for leaders, right? Not consciously, but that's just what happens at that very deep unconscious level, is they want to grow into someone that they look up to. And if you're following behaviors that are very unconscious and very ingrained, this is how you deal with your tough emotions and how you deal with your life that is tough. Well, that's actually what's being taught at an unconscious level to your children.
But that, Shaun, that means that people have to do the work. They have to do the
Yes,
work on themselves, and a lot of people don't want to do that. They want to
100%.
blame their kids and say, "Well, you're the problem," or "You're triggering me," or "I've got all of these things." But it's very hard for a parent to look inside and say, "Oof, this might be something that I need to work on." And it's helping parents understand that it's a journey. Like, we're all doing the best that we possibly can with our kids, and we all have moments. I still do all of the time with my son. I get frustrated, and you won't come out the door, and I'm just you know I get frustrated, but I have to see in that frustration and say, that's okay. You got distracted. Did you get distracted again?
Mm-hmm.
So it's softening into those beautiful moments with our kids. But first, we need to soften into ourselves,
Yeah.
because that's where the softening comes from. It's like, you can't be soft with your children if you're still so hard on yourself. And I was so hard on myself for so many years, still am at times.
Mm.
Um, and I've had to learn over time to have so much compassion and love for my circumstance and where I am. And even separation, it's a tough journey. And I do nearly all the parenting, like 99% of parenting on my own. I don't have that person there with me to be able to really help and support. And it's tough. Like, nobody sees the moments during transition of when a child comes back from the other person, and it's in like an explosion goes off. It's like poof.
Mm.
And you're just like, whoa, okay, all right. And you've got to hold that space for your child. And behind closed doors, that's the stuff that people don't see. They don't see the big explosions, because a child generally has a safe person. And that could be either parent. I'm not saying it goes any way. There's generally, sometimes it's outside of even the parents that a child has a safe person. And then that person is their safe person, where they feel their authentic self with, where they can like let go of that rubber band. And at school, sometimes they're at school and they've got a big rubber band on. And so at school, they're just like, yes, 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 put it. And then they come home and it's like, poof. And
Mm.
that rubber band is released. And this happens so much in separation, where the parents, it's like, or when a child goes to their grandparents and like, oh, they were perfectly behaved, and they get home and it's like, poof, that's a child being real. And it's okay for them to be real. And this is where we need to really feel into our kids and say, hey, you've had a hard day. Or, hey, do we need to have some connection time? Or should we go for a walk? Or do you want to play a game together? And I'm such an advocate, Shaun, of giving kids control and giving them experiences, and giving them yes days and things that they can actually have control back into their life. Because especially during separation, they're told they need to be here, they need to be here, they need to be doing this. And it's tough. It's really tough.
Mm. It almost sounds
Mm.
like you're leaning into their curiosity, right? Because,
Yes.
I mean, I see my daughter's now 16 months old, and she's just opening up to a new world every single day.
Mm.
Nothing's ever the same. It's always so wonderful, and we sort of lose that, I think, as we get older because of the conditioning and the closing off of our heart effectively.
Mm,
We do sort of draw conclusions and say, is this all there really is sometimes? And
mm.
when you lean into the curiosity and start learning from our children, it's like there's just so much to learn from them.
They
And
are our greatest teachers if you allow them to be.
yes, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Mm.
And I'd love to, speak into that for a moment with you, because when you're going through that separation, I mean, you noticed it in your boy, right?
Mm.
He was throwing around rubbish bins and doing all this crazy stuff. But where did you find that you were at going through those transitions, and was it sort of like a mirror of you seeing that in him?
I mean, that's a really good question. It was turmoil. My separation was very brutal. Still is. To be
Mm.
honest, it still is quite brutal. It hasn't. I tried to do a conscious uncoupling course, and it wasn't welcomed. And it's like one day you're in a family dynamic, and then the next day you're just like poof, gone. And it's still how it is today. Unfortunately, almost 5 years later.
Mm.
Um, and that's been really challenging. That's been a real challenge for my son to understand. My ex-partner goes on lots of holidays, never brings him. And for a little boy that finds it really hard, I've had to, work on myself. It's very hard during the start of the separation process when your child is a mess and you're a mess. And so it's like, being in that messiness together. And the best thing I can suggest to people is just being really authentic. And if you need to cry, cry. And if you need to talk about things, like, we don't need to say the stories of what happened or anything like that, but the high level of the feelings. And I feel sad today, or I'm having a really big moment, or can you give me a hug, or, whatever those big moments are. Because kids are always learning. They're always learning. And they are as we said before, they're our greatest teachers. I was very lucky during my separation process that I was doing a sadhana practice for the first 12 months. So that's like a pranayama, mantra, tantric practices, as well as yoga practices, breath work that we do every single morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I really realized that really helped me get through. There's Virata, like dancing, like doing a lot of dance. My son and I do a lot of dance to release our feelings out of our body. But we have that space where it's okay to feel, and it's okay to have big moments. Like, we were at lacrosse on the weekend, and my son was just like, I want to go, and I want to go. And I was like, is everything okay, mate? And he just tuned into himself and he said, actually, Mummy, I think I'm hungry. So it's just having those moments with our kids that we help them understand that it's okay, but if there's something going on, we can help that and we can support that.
Mm.
So with kids, especially during that separation process, you need to be kind to you. You need to be really kind to you. I had a ring on my finger that said, I am enough, because I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like that, I wasn't enough of a human being during that time. And I had to really help myself with that self-worth. And that's very common for separation, either side, the masculine or the feminine, to feel like that, where you feel broken. You are absolutely broken. And then slowly you start to mend yourself and the pieces start to come back together, and they start to come back together. But that takes time. It
Mm.
takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of courage. We moved to the beach because I knew that that's what my soul needed. I needed to have that soul, but I was a single mum working full-time in practice, and I had to do all the driving to Melbourne, which was a 4-hour drive on my only respite time away from my son. I was exhausted. So we recently moved back to Melbourne just to be with family so I could have that additional support, because I haven't had it. And it's so nice. It's so nice to be able to have that help. And it's really important. Something I will talk about is that I see all these Instagram posts about how important it is for boys to have their fathers, and in a separation process sometimes they choose not to show up, and that comes back on the mother. It's like, well, we have to find those counterparts to be able to play those roles for our children, and often the mother gets blamed for that, and I don't think that that's fair.
Yeah.
It's never the father that's not showing up, it's the mother that's not fulfilling those roles. And my son's lucky to have some beautiful people in his life that do play those roles. But I think that there needs to be more said about about mums that are single mums, because when you have gone through some pretty brutal things, and I was in a domestically violent relationship for 15 years of my life before this. My ex-partner knew that, and he did something, not abusive, but the way that it happened was very brutal. And I think mums are doing their best. And when you have gone through that level of trauma, you don't just want anybody to come into your safe space. You've got to really trust those people that come into your safe space with your children. And it's really important that you have that stability with them. And a lot of mums, especially single mums, are creating those stability for our own children, because that's the most important thing. And we don't worry about dating. It's not a thing for us until we find that light post, until we find that person that can come in and be stable with us. So it's really challenging when you do see these Instagram posts about, well, a father needs a child needs its father, and if you've tried to make that happen and it doesn't happen, it's challenging. It's very challenging as a mum to play both roles. We don't want to play both roles. We would love to have those roles fulfilled, but sometimes they're not.
Yeah, it really it must be so challenging and so difficult just to understand that nothing is really fixed, right? There's no perfect way. There is really no perfect way, but everything is perfect right now. And it's if we open up and see things for the way that they are, everything is our opportunity for growth. And we are the unconscious permission slip to everyone around us. And what I mean by that is, if we're able to realize that we're uncomfortable right now, the child is now screaming off the top of its lungs, it's throwing stuff everywhere, it's, he's having a mad time. We are so conditioned based on the systems that we've been put through, based on the childhoods that we've had, and all the transitional periods where we didn't feel safe. It's just a reflection. And it's so hard to stomach that, there's much more work to do. Even if you feel like you've done so much work on yourself, there's always more work to do.
There's always more work to do. There absolutely is. Absolutely.
And I don't know if, especially, I found it so much more in the healing space, that there's so many people that are still, they're giving, but unable to receive back. Because they're still running away from their own issues themselves, and they don't want anyone else to experience what they've gone through, but they don't realize that deep down they're still playing out themselves as a victim. Right? And there's nothing worse in my mind as an empowered victim. So I'd love for you to maybe share and speak into that for a second, of like, what are some of the things that you've done that have allowed you to maybe realize that, okay, I'm making all these commitments, I'm doing all these things for my family, my boy, but what was that moment where you're like, I feel like I need to move back to Melbourne and actually receive some support from family? Because it is so nice when you're able to do that, but it takes a lot of courage, right?
No, that was such a tough decision, because I loved my practice so much, and I loved the kids, and I loved the environment and where we were. And, I learned how to surf, and I didn't go regularly. But, it was that healing, like that was our safe space but it was also our healing center. So it was almost this decision for me of saying, you know what, I've healed as much as I can now. I had massive PTSD with Melbourne, still do a little bit, to be honest, just because of the way the separation happened. And it was really hard to go back into that space. And I hear no a lot. And so my family didn't really come down to Torquay. So for me to be able to say, hey, I need you, it was a really hard decision for somebody that always acts quite tough, but is not inside at all. There's still a lot of healing and a lot of growth, but moving back to my family was the best thing that I've ever done, because it helped me heal the relationship with my family, where the barriers that were up before Dad wasn't part of our life when we were growing up much. He was always working. Mum was always there. But
Mm.
I had a lot of frustration and anger towards my family because they didn't come and help us in Torquay. They didn't come and visit us, or they weren't there. So um, it was really tough, challenging situation. But I know that my child needed his family. He needed his family more than anything else. And he needed that male support, and he needed my dad is such a beautiful, it's just so divine to watch my dad be a father figure essentially to my son that he
Mm.
wasn't to us growing up. And
Mm.
he just loves and adores him so much. They have a 3D printer, and they do have a 3D printing business, and they bounce off each other about it all the time. And it's always like they've got made iron masks together, and it's really beautiful to see that. And so sometimes I think if we give our family an opportunity, and of course they're going to trigger you, they do, but they don't trigger me like they used to.
Yeah.
They don't. And that's where the healing comes in. And that's when you realize that you can be close to family and it to be loving and beautiful and have gratitude towards that. That's when you know you've done a lot of healing. That's the moment where you're like, hey, this feels really nice. And that's the place. Like, we don't need 100 friends, we don't need to be friends with everybody, or like, we just need to have our safe places with the people that we love and adore and mean a lot to us. Um, so I think that's when I realized how much work I'd actually done, when I was able to sit in those uncomfortable spaces, still with boundaries and standing up for myself. I'm very different to my family. I'm the black sheep for sure. My mum's kind of on the borderline with me, but the rest of my family are very different to us, and that's okay. It's having that radical acceptance of saying, "Hey, it's okay for you to be whoever it is that you want to be in the world. It's okay. Like, I accept you wholeheartedly. You're still my family, and I love you." And I think that's a really nice space to be in. But my son needed family more than anything, and that was a big decision as to why we moved back to Melbourne. He needed that male support. He needed um, that beautiful connection. We're very close to his cousins, and it's been a beautiful journey. But yeah, it's tough. None of this is tough. We're never healed. We're healing. We're forever healing.
Mm.
And there's a lot to do
Yeah.
with healing. There's so much, but I had to break down a barrier of I don't need anyone, and it's opened that space of like, actually I'd like someone to be able to help me. And I think that's a nice space to be in when you break down those walls, still with boundaries, still having walls up that you need to. But I think when you sit in your own pain, and that's tough, when you work out the part that you've played in everything, that's tough, and it's
Mm.
really important because it takes two to tango. It's never just one person's fault. In any relationship, friendship, but if you can sit and have open conversations with people, and you can have those open conversations, I think that's really beautiful. But I've lost a lot of friendships, because people don't want to have those hard conversations.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
They don't
interesting.
want to sit in hey, can we just talk about how we're feeling? They'll just shut the door. They'll be like, okay, well, for me, I just walk away. I'm like, well, that to me is a time for me to walk away from that friendship.
Mm.
I'm done. Like, if you can't sit in that space with me, and the door will always be open if you want to have that conversation. But I think that the hard conversations are really hard for a lot of people.
And it's almost like you're redefining what healing is. I
Yeah,
feel like, anyway, because healing is not this thing that you do. It's this act of softening
yeah,
to the chaos that, when you are triggered, when another reframe for being triggered is activated, right? It's like when your nervous system doesn't feel safe,
yeah.
and then you actually prime yourself to choose a response instead of react to whatever it is that activated you.
I'll tell you something that I do, Sean, and it's
Mm.
something I've been doing recently, and I do it with my son as well, is that we picture all of our feelings and emotions around a campfire, every single one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the emotions, like whether it's anger or frustration or jealousy, like we name the emotion and then we get our emotion back into the campfire and we go, come back here, jealousy, or come back here, anger. And we allow all of our emotions to be fit, to be felt. Every single one of them is felt, and they're all welcome. And I think that that's really important for us, is to really welcome all of our emotions into our body, because they all have their part to play. Even anxiety, even
Mm.
depression, all of them are very they protect us in ways. And I think it's really important for us to make sure that we do feel every emotion.
Yeah, I'd love also because in this space, like there's a lot of talk about, feeling all those negative emotions, right? But there's not necessarily a whole lot of talk about expressing and celebrating the positive ones,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
There
Yeah.
is gratitude practices that people do, but I think for a lot of people that are probably more of the black sheep of the family, they do find it hard to celebrate themselves, right?
Yeah.
And actually acknowledge how far they've come
Yeah.
in that process. And, that process of almost just letting the positive emotions come out and be celebrated, because that's, the small wins, celebrating the small wins. There's
Yeah.
talk about it, but there's not a lot of happening, I see anyway. So I'd love
I think
for you
that's a
to,
really good
yeah.
point, Sean. That's something that I talked about with my psychologist. It's that, like, look at how far you've come, not how far you've got to go. Look at how far you've come, and using that as a celebration moment. I'm like, wow, look at how dark I was back then, and there's so much light to come of that. And I think that that's a really beautiful space where we can, yeah, just celebrate the little wins. It's exactly what you said. It's having those moments of just saying, you know what, I'm doing a pretty good job.
Mm,
I think it's really important. It's that joy. I think we lose a lot of joy in our life. And I think children are there to bring our joy back. They help us experience things, but rather than going to bounce, go bouncing with your child, or, get on a bike or a skateboard or a surfboard and do it together. Quite often, a parent will just sit on the sidelines, but I encourage parents to get in and do it together. Because
fully
if you are
involve.
a parent,
Yeah.
yeah, if you are a parent that is of service to your family, of service to your children, you are going to feel resentful. Like, you need to make sure that your cup is 100% filled up with every part of love that you possibly have. And it is so important for your cup to be lit up. So I ask parents all the time, like, what are you doing for you? What
Mm.
is your area of self love? What are the things that you are doing to light up your soul? And I'll ask you, Sean, like, what are you doing?
The beauty of this is I really love just playing with my daughter.
Mm,
I love it so much because just seeing her light up lights me up so much more than I could ever probably do for myself.
mm,
And it's almost just like a reflection. So what I've noticed is what I see in her is what I'm putting out to her, right? It's really
mm.
just a mirror back to me, and it's our ability to receive that and acknowledge that within ourselves. So what I love to do is just play different games, even if it's just like she's running off and I come around and I'm like, I'm coming to get you, I'm coming to get you, and then make a little loud stomp so that she has a little bit of a fear response, but then she
Mm,
starts screaming with just so much joy, and then I just pick her up and she's just like so happy.
mm.
It's just so fun to
That's the connection piece.
yeah,
Yeah.
just involve yourself. I think that's really the key message
Mm,
is life is not a game to sit on the sidelines. Life is a game for you to play however you want to play it. If you want to sit on the sidelines, that's great. Just know that that is your choice.
mm.
But if you want to become the best version of you and really show and appreciate your life for what it is, involve yourself 100%. Like, put your hand up and say yes first. Don't wait for someone to ask you. Just be the permission piece for other people. I think that's
It
so
is tough though.
interesting.
When I was going through my separation, like, I was definitely in a state of depression, 100%. And
Hmm.
I would scroll on my phone, still do now. scrolling, like that scrolling. And I actually said to my son, we have some really open conversations, and I always say to him, hey mate, just tell me that you want my full attention, or just snap me out of it. And I know that a child shouldn't have to do this, but
Yeah,
sometimes we get so caught up in our head that we don't even realize what we're doing, or the days just become so long. um, and so it's creating that space as well. Like, we have boundaries around being me working on the weekend. Like, I've got a massive project to do and it's hard. And so he doesn't want me to work on the weekend. And I'm like, okay, no worries. Well, during the week, can you make sure you're in bed by 8 o'clock? And that way we can have more space on the weekend. And so it is tough at times. Like, I know that we always should put up our hand to play, but people aren't always in the state to be able to.
correct. Yeah.
I actually hear a lot from parents that they don't like to play with their kids.
Mm.
There's a lot of, like, people don't like going to the park, or they don't actually enjoy playing cars on the ground with them because they've got so much to do. And I think that first comes to being present with yourself. I think
100%.
that is really important, to be present. So playing with our kids is great, but we do need to have that, like, self-talk with ourselves. And that could be in a form of meditation. It could be walking. It could be surfing. It could be breath work, whatever it is. It could be even, like, food is massive with me. I'm on a massive detox at the moment, and I already notice my intuition is just like talking to me on a loudspeaker because I'm doing all of this healing. Whereas before, for 4 years, I lived on sugar and I was just blurred. So I think that the connection to self is really important when it comes to kids as well, is to making sure that we have our quiet time, that we have our time to really light up our soul. Because when we play with our kids, it is very giving, and we need to make sure that we do receive as well. Although it is receiving in the joy elements and the smiles, we do need to make sure that we're filling up our own cup too.
Mm. Yeah. It's
Because you burn out. You burn out, and I'm the queen of that.
I 100% agree. This is
Mm.
where I start to look at astrophysics a little bit, right?
Mhm.
And if you ask a physicist, I can't even say the word. I'm not going to say it. If you ask one of those people in that study, they'll actually say that object and subject are the same thing.
Mm.
So giving is actually receiving, and it's our ability to expand our awareness. So work on yourself to really open up to that space of, there is no difference between you and I. We're actually one love. So
Yeah.
it's that energy, and when you open yourself up that much, it's so exciting.
Mm.
Life just
Yeah.
becomes
It
so
all
much
comes from a place of love. Bring it back to love. Mm.
100%. And it's not easy to do that. No, by no means is it easy to do that. And we all have challenges. Like, life will keep on throwing stuff at you,
Mm.
whether you're a beggar, a king, a monk, or a soldier on the battlefield, right? Life is always going to throw stuff at you, but it's how you manage and how you regulate yourself to bring you back to baseline.
Yeah. Yeah. It's true. It's true. And it's having that. But another thing, Sean, is that there's a lot of BS in the wellness world. There's so much, and I've been in this space for 20 years and I've seen my fair share. I've
Mm,
seen the highest of highs and I've seen the lowest of lows. And I think it's really important that people realize that the connection to self is the most important. Somebody can be a guru and, be a healer, but they haven't necessarily done the whole work themselves.
yeah.
And if somebody's not bringing you back to your child, that's not healing, it's performance. So making sure that the people that we go to, um, that we take everything with a grain of salt, because they don't have all the answers, whether that's healers, whether that's yogis, whether that's psychics, whether that's, even Aubrey Marcus, he was just told by God to impregnate 2 women. That we've got to really look beyond everything else and have that connection to self. I think it's really important because there's so much out there that is quite toxic as well.
Mm,
And it's important that we come back to ourselves and work out the answers for ourselves, and go to safe places where we feel really safe.
yeah. Because you can't really connect to yourself until you really trust that space that you're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
loneliness and aloneness are not the same thing.
Yeah. And there's a lot of smoky mirrors out there. And so we've just got to make sure that we trust our intuition and we trust ourselves to follow the path and the journey that He's led for us.
Yeah. Well, Jacintha, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today and all of the deep insights that you have so far. I'd love to know, this is a question that I normally ask my guests at the end of the episode, and that is, if you could go back to the very first time you became a mum, your boy's now 10, what would you tell yourself, given everything that you've lived, everything that you know now? What's that message you could tell yourself all the way back then?
When I first had a baby, I mean, that was the most exciting part of my life. That He is here to support your healing. He's going to trigger you a lot. But He's the greatest thing that's ever happened to you. And you are going to be okay through all of it. I think it's really important to know that, we're going to be okay. Everything is divine moment and divine timing. And no matter what's thrown at humans, you're going to be okay. It might hurt at the time. I call separation and different things the mud, parenting the mud, but you will find a way out of it.
Profound. Simple but profound. Thank you so much, Jacintha, for being here. So much appreciate your energy, your time, and your wisdom. And anyone who's listening, what would be the best way to find you? What's the best way to connect with you on socials?
My Instagram is Jacintha Field. Now I have a little H in there. It's confusing for people. It's like Samantha and Jacintha put together. So it's Jacintha Field, Field. We're about to launch our socials for Happy Souls Kids. So that would be on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And either going to the website, happysoulskids.com. Like, we want as many parents as we possibly can. We've got 100,000 by 2027 that we want to help and support. So if I can teach you the lessons and the beautiful people that we've gone on board to teach you lessons to, I think that will really help people's healing, because my business is called Happy Souls Kids, but it's actually the parents that need the most support rather than the children. Yeah.
So true. Well, thank you so much again. And if you want Jacintha to be on the podcast episode again for another recording, I'd love to have you on. And please let us know if you want her on. And we'll make it happen. So thank you all for listening in, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks so much, Shaun. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to Rawsome Parents, where we keep it raw, real, and awesome. If you loved this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more parents just like you. And hey, remember, parenting is a wild ride, but you're never in it alone. If you need more support or just want to connect, find me on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram at the Shaun Tucker. Until next time, stay raw, stay awesome, and keep leading with love. See you soon.